Hey, welcome back to our winter holiday workshop series. Here we are at Badger Rock again, and this time we are going to be uplifting some recipes from one of my cultural food traditions. I, as a lot of people, am actually a mix of a lot of different cultures, but today we're going to be focusing on some of the holiday traditions that we've made in my family since I was a kid, and that is some traditions coming from England, so my English ancestry. So the first one we're going to learn about is something called Yorkshire pudding. If you all have ever had popovers or any kind of eggy, custardy kind of bread, this is what that is. And it is traditionally cooked in the bottom of a pan with a roast so that it kind of cooks in all the drippings from the roast as you're cooking it. These days, a lot of people aren't wanting to have all those drippings directly in their food that they're eating. So it's become more traditional nowadays to cook it in a pan on the side and eat it separately. So I'm just going to show you all how to make it. It's really delicious, and it just reminds me of the holidays because, like I was saying, my mom used to make this every year when I was growing up. We would also have artichokes dipped in butter. So how's that for an interesting combination of traditions? So we're going to start with just a cup, well, 7/8 of a cup is what the recipe calls for of flour. But the way that I do it is just about a cup of flour in here. We're going to put about a cup of flour. It's a very simple recipe too. We're going to put about a half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to mix these two things together. And then I'm going to make a little well in the middle. So make a little spot in the middle for some liquid. And what I'm going to put into that well is a combination of water and milk and eggs. So I'm going to start with a half a cup of water. Just pour that on in there. A half a cup of milk. Pour that on in there too. And before I add the eggs, I'm going to just start mixing this. All right. So you just start whisking it. You can use a spoon or a whisk. And you just whisk and whisk and whisk until it starts to kind of bubble and froth. And that's when you know it's been mixed enough. You want it nice and light and fluffy and frothy, and it is definitely like more of a liquid than a dough. So it's really considered kind of more of a pudding than a bread. That's the name, Yorkshire pudding. So I'm going to mix this up. And the other trick to Yorkshire pudding is to have a hot pan. So I usually preheat my oven to 400 degrees. And I put the pan right in the oven. You can use beef drippings or you can use butter, but you want to put about a quarter cup of some kind of fat in the bottom of your pan. I did it with butter this time, and that's usually what I do in my house, just because we don't eat a lot of beef, so we don't usually have a roast, so we don't usually have drippings. But you just kind of whip this up until it's nice and fluffy and frothy. See how it's starting to form some bubbles? Once it starts getting some big bubbles in it, that is go time to add the eggs. And ideally you would have your ingredients about room temperature for this too. So your eggs, you can leave them out for a little bit. And I'm just going to crack 2 eggs in here. And whip them up. You can also make Yorkshire pudding in muffin tins. If you've ever had a popover, it's kind of like a puddingy, eggy kind of a muffin. So you can make them in muffin tins, but I usually make it in a 8x13 pan and cut it into squares to eat it. So just get those eggs in there. If you're really doing it the way you're supposed to, you would then let this batter sit for about an hour in the fridge. Take it out, bring it back up to room temperature, beat it again, and then put it in the pan. I usually am a little too impatient for that step, or I don't have time. And so I usually just put it right in the pan as is. So you can see here's my pan right here. It's hot because I put it in the oven with 4 tablespoons, which is a 1/4 cup of butter. The butter all melted in the bottom of the pan. And so when you pull that pan out of that 400-degree oven and you put the pudding mixture in there, it's going to kind of already start to poof on the sides if your pan is hot enough. So I'm just going to pop it in there. This pan has been out of the oven for a little bit, so you don't get that first wave of poof, but that's okay. You can see the butter kind of crawling up over the edges of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to cook it in a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes and then turn it down to 350 for another 10 to 15. And you don't want to open that oven. I know it's tempting. Don't open that oven because otherwise the pudding won't poof. And if it doesn't poof, it's not proper Yorkshire pudding. So we're going to pop this Yorkshire pudding in the oven, and then we'll be right back to show you one other recipe that we're going to be highlighting today. See you in a few. Hey, we're back for part number 2 of this particular workshop, and we're going to be learning how to make a drink called wassail. And wassail is actually an Anglo Saxon word that translates to good health. So this is a drink that was traditionally made in England to toast to good health. And actually, I learned this really funny thing that, well, maybe it's not funny, but it's interesting. People used to go out to the apple orchards because part of this drink includes apple cider. And in the wintertime, hang pieces of toast on the apple trees. And that is where the term toasting, when you drink your delicious holiday beverages, came from. So that was news to me while I was looking up a little bit more about this recipe. But wassail means good health, and this drink used to be served in big silver bowls or pewter bowls, and you would drink it usually around New Year's Eve or 12th night to celebrate and just wish for good health in the new year. So it is absolutely delicious, and there are simple ways to do it, and there are more complicated ways to do it. My favorite way to do it is to actually cook the apples with the brown sugar and the spices and then put them into the beverage. So what you're going to need is some apple cider to start. If you're making a full recipe, you'll want 1 gallon of apple cider. Pour that into a pot. And then you're going to want about 6 smallish apples. And what you're going to do with the apples is actually cut the top off and take the core and the seeds out. So I can show you all how I do that. Just chop the top right off. And then you can just simply use a spoon. If you have an apple corer, even better. I don't have one of those, but a spoon will do the trick. So you're just taking the core and the seeds out of the apple. And once you get it nice and cleaned out, you'll have a little cavity in the middle of the apple, and that is where you will put your brown sugar and your spices. So once we get all this cord out of here, you can scoot the seeds to the side, and you'll end up with the top, and you'll end up with a little apple, like a cup made out of your apple. What you're going to do next is make a spice mixture. So what this spice mixture has in it is dark brown sugar, about 6 tablespoons of that. It has a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. It has a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. It has a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg and a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. Those are all those delicious mulling spices that you put in hot cider. And once you get all those mixed up together, you can scoop that sugar spice mixture into your apples. Like so. And then you'll want a baking dish or a pie plate will do the trick, because what you're going to do next is you're going to actually bake these apples with all that goodness inside them. And I have some baked apples ready to go over here. What I did was put a cup of apple cider in the bottom of the pie pan, and I put these in the oven at 350 for about an hour. You might have to do them a little longer. You really want to cook them until the apples are squishy, super squishy and super cooked. And you see that all that delicious brown sugar apple cider spice goodness on the bottom. Don't leave that in this pan. Make sure you put that in the drink once you get it going. So once these are all mixed up or baked up and ready to go, you're gonna put these into the apple cider. Scoop it in there. If you keep your apples in the oven too long, the apple cider might caramelize on the bottom of the pan. That's okay. You don't have to worry about scraping the caramelized parts out into your recipe. But now we have our apple cider and our apples in there. You would have 6 apples in there if you were doing it all the way. And then what we're going to do is take an orange. This is just a regular navel orange. And get some whole cloves. And I'm just going to stick about 10 of these. You can do it to taste, but to me, cloves are super, super strong. So I don't like a super clovey wassail. It's a little much for me, but about 10 will do the trick. Just put them right in the peel of the orange. So then you have an orange with cloves. Pop that in your apple cider. The other orange you can either slice or cut into wedges and put this in there too. So I'm just going to put these orange wedges in here. This is also a really beautiful drink to cook on your stovetop with all the colors. And it will make your house smell like a little piece of heaven. Between that and your Yorkshire pudding, y'all, I'm telling you, you are going to be ready to feast by the time it's ready. So we have our oranges in there, and the next thing we're going to put in is a lemon. So this is kind of like a sweet tart drink, and one of the lemons, you're going to use 2. One you're going to juice, and just put the straight lemon juice right in your pot with the rest of the ingredients. 1 lemon, 2 lemons. And the second one, you're going to cut into slices like we did the orange and put those in there too. So juice of a whole lemon in there. And if you want to put the peels in, you can go for that too. And then I'm just going to make slices and put those in there too. All right. And these would go in the pan to cook. And once they're cooked, they would go in the pot too. Then I'm going to cook it. And I would put it on the stovetop and bring it to a full boil. And once it has boiled, turn it down to a simmer. You can simmer it for about an hour. You can simmer it longer if you just like to have that smell in your house. And once it's done simmering, it's simmered for about an hour, you can add 1 cup of cranberry juice to add a little tartness to the wassail. There we go. And as you all know the song, I'm sure some of y'all know the song. Here we come a-wassailing among the leaves of green. Here we come a-wassailing so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. And God bless you and bring you a happy new year. And God bring you a happy new year. So you have to sing that while you're cooking it. And then once it's ready, you can enjoy this hot. And we will come back in a few minutes and show you what the Yorkshire pudding looks like finished. And then you will be ready for your English Christmas feast. All right, y'all, we're back. And look what happened. I did not open that oven and it properly poofed. Look at this. This is what Yorkshire pudding looks like. You can see those drippings on the inside. And the way you would eat it is to cut yourself a square and put it on your plate with your other dishes, or you can honestly even just enjoy it plain. So, and it is like eggy. It's like a custardy kind of a bread. So if it has that texture, that's good. That's what you want. So it looks like this when it's ready. Yorkshire pudding, so delicious. So that's that one. And then the wassail is now been cooked for a little bit on the stovetop here. And so we're just gonna scoop up a little. If you've had mulled cider or mulled wine, that combination of the apple cider and the cranberry and the citrus kind of makes a wine-ish, ciderish kind of tasting beverage. And you can either drink it just like this, have it for the whole family, for the kids. You can also add a little splash of bourbon or brandy if you want to have that kind of holiday drink. And that is wassail. So y'all, wishing you good health in the new year and a happy holiday. And I hope y'all have love and peace and joy over the break, and that we will see y'all in the new year. And start it off with something delicious. Hope y'all enjoy your holidays, and we will see you back in January.